Trade disputes shape global economies, and the United States-Canada conflict is a prime example. A single tariff can disrupt entire industries, while strategic countermeasures can reshape economic alignments. Initially, the United States sought dominance, but Canada's counteroffensive now threatens North America's automotive supply chain, putting factories, jobs, and consumer costs at risk. This dispute extends beyond mere trade rhetoric. What led to this escalation, and what comes next? Below are the 7 most crucial developments in this intensifying economic standoff. Number 7. Canada's strategic retaliation, a paradigm shift in trade dynamics. Trade disputes are nothing new, but Canada's latest move has shifted the entire landscape of North American economics. In response to the United States' sudden imposition of a 25% tariff on Canadian goods, Canada unleashed a well-calculated counterattack. Instead of a broad, unfocused response, Canada surgically targeted American industries where it would hurt the most, selecting products and sectors with deep economic and political implications. By imposing retaliatory tariffs on key American exports, such as Kentucky bourbon, Florida orange juice, and electric vehicles, Canada ensured its response was felt where it matters most, in the pockets of United States consumers and policymakers alike. This strategic response is more than just a retaliatory measure. It is an economic warning shot, signaling that Canada has the ability to fight back without compromising its own economic stability. By ensuring each targeted product impacts a key industry or political stronghold, Canada has transformed what seemed like a routine trade dispute into a full-fledged economic standoff with global implications. Number 6. Tesla in the crosshairs. The trade war's effect on the EV industry. Tesla, a symbol of American innovation, is now at the center of Canada's trade war strategy. The electric vehicle giant relies heavily on Canadian-sourced raw materials, such as nickel, lithium, and aluminum, critical to its battery and car production. By placing restrictions or tariffs on these essential resources, Canada has the power to disrupt Tesla's production lines, sending ripples throughout the global electric vehicle market. The immediate consequences are clear: higher costs for Tesla, reduced supply of electric vehicle components, and overall increases in electric vehicle prices. Investors are already concerned as Tesla's stock experiences fluctuations amid these trade uncertainties. More broadly, this move affects the entire electric vehicle industry, as automakers scramble to secure affordable raw materials in an already strained supply chain. Canada's decision to squeeze Tesla's supply chain may be one of the most potent economic maneuvers in this trade war, placing immense pressure on Washington to reconsider its aggressive trade policies. Number 5. The auto industry at risk, supply chains in disarray. One of the most overlooked aspects of the United States-Canada trade war is the delicate and deeply intertwined auto industry supply chain. Manufacturing processes for vehicles and auto parts span borders multiple times before final assembly. From Detroit to Ontario, from Mexico to the Midwest, factories rely on a seamless flow of materials to function efficiently. The imposition of tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum disrupts this balance, causing a chain reaction of increased costs, production slowdowns, and job losses. Ironically, tariffs designed to protect American manufacturing jobs are having the opposite effect, forcing layoffs and factory closures as costs skyrocket. Canada, understanding this fragile interdependency, has taken full advantage by making the auto sector one of the primary battlegrounds in this economic war. As supply chains continue to fracture, pressure mounts on the United States government to de-escalate the situation before irreversible damage occurs. Before we delve deeper, do us a favor and smash that like and subscribe button. This helps us reach more auto enthusiasts just like you. Now let's shift gears and steer toward our next point. Number 4. The political repercussions trade policy as an electoral liability. Trade wars don't just impact businesses, they influence elections. As factory workers, farmers, and consumers begin to feel the pinch of higher prices and job losses, political leaders in Washington are feeling the heat. Many U.S. politicians initially supported tariffs, believing they would strengthen American industry. However, with supply chain disruptions and increased costs affecting ordinary Americans, the political tide is turning. In Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is using the trade war as a rallying cry for national unity, portraying the retaliatory tariffs as necessary to protect Canadian sovereignty. Meanwhile, in the U.S., lawmakers are reconsidering their stance, fearing voter backlash in key swing states with elections on the horizon. Trade policy has become one of the most contentious political issues, and the pressure to negotiate a resolution is greater than ever. Number 3. Energy as a strategic asset. Canada's undeployed leverage. Beyond tariffs and trade policies, Canada has another ace up its sleeve: energy. The United States relies heavily on Canadian oil, natural gas, and electricity to power its economy. While Canada has yet to fully weaponize its energy exports, the mere possibility sends shivers down the spines of U.S. officials. Imagine a scenario where Canada reduces oil shipments to the U.S. Gas prices could double overnight, causing economic turmoil in major American cities. Electricity shortages in northern states could leave millions in the dark. These consequences would be far more damaging than any tariff or countermeasure currently in place. The fact that Canada has not yet pulled this lever suggests it is reserving energy exports as a last resort, one that could completely reshape North American economic relations if deployed. Number 2. Global reverberations. The trade war's expanding influence. What began as a bilateral trade dispute is now sending shockwaves across the global economy. European nations are adjusting trade policies in response, seeking alternative markets as North America's economic uncertainty grows. China is capitalizing on the chaos, strengthening trade ties with Canada to replace lost business with the U.S. Developing nations, too, are seeing opportunities to step in where American companies can no longer compete. The longer this trade war drags on, the more the U.S. risks losing its status as a dominant economic force. Trade isn't just about numbers, it's about relationships and trust, and right now, America's reliability as a trade partner is being called into question on a global scale. Number 1. The economic toll: rising costs for everyday consumers. For all the high-level economic strategies and political maneuvers, the real impact of this trade war is being felt by everyday people. Grocery bills are on the rise, gas prices are unpredictable, and small businesses are struggling to afford imported goods. Layoffs in manufacturing are leaving families uncertain about their future. The harsh reality is that economic conflicts don't resolve overnight. Even if a truce were signed tomorrow, the damage to businesses and supply chains would take years to repair. Consumers will continue to feel the effects long after politicians shake hands and declare victory. The question remains, how long will the American public tolerate these hardships before demanding change? Recent data underscores the magnitude of this trade standoff and the potential for enduring consequences if it escalates further. Historical context and economic scale. According to the Office of the United States Trade Representative, USTR, Canada and the U.S. exchanged over $680 billion in goods and services in 2021, making each country the other's top trading partner, or near the top in most sectors. This long-standing relationship is rooted in the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, replaced by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, in 2020. The USMCA was designed to modernize and strengthen regional trade, but protectionist policies and retaliatory measures risk undermining its foundational goals. Automotive Industry Dependence Industry Analysis by the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association, CVMA, highlights that the auto sector represents roughly 12% of Canada's manufacturing GDP. In the U.S., data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, indicates that nearly 1 million American jobs are connected to motor vehicle and parts manufacturing. With parts and materials crossing the border multiple times, any tariff or bottleneck in supply lines can rapidly inflate production costs. Research from the Center for Automotive Research, CAR, suggests that a prolonged trade conflict could add thousands of dollars to the price of a new vehicle, deterring consumers and stunting industry growth. EV market pressures. For electric vehicles, raw materials like nickel, cobalt, and lithium are critical for battery production. Canada's rich deposits of these minerals have attracted considerable foreign direct investment, FDI. Yet a report by Bloomberg NEF warns that if supply constraints intensify due to trade disputes, global EV adoption could slow. This could, in turn, hamper efforts to reduce carbon emissions, aligning the trade debate with wider environmental and sustainability concerns. Energy leverage and cross-border infrastructure. The cross-border energy trade remains pivotal for both nations. Canada supplies about 10% of U.S. oil demand, per the U.S. Energy Information Administration, EIA. Additionally, several northern U.S. states depend on Canadian electricity imports, especially during peak demand in winter. A scenario where Canada limits energy exports would not only hike prices, but also raise questions about energy security and North American resilience. Economists point out that such action would be a last resort, given the interdependent nature of critical pipelines and the existing agreements under the USMCA. Global ramifications and trade diversification. As uncertainties grow, other major economies, including the European Union and China, are recalibrating their own trade deals and supply chains. A 2022 study published by the Peterson Institute for International Economics highlights that persistent U.S.-Canada tensions could open doors for competitors in Asia, Europe, and South America to capitalize on market share. Meanwhile, both Canadian and American small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, risk losing out as global partners look for more stable trade environments. In essence, robust research reveals that this trade war is not merely a bilateral spat. It's a critical juncture that could reshape North American and global economic landscapes. As supply chains remain vulnerable and political pressures mount, a concerted effort to negotiate, compromise, and rebuild trust will be vital to prevent further disruption. Whether through renewed dialogue under the USMCA or broader international frameworks, the next moves made by Ottawa and Washington will likely determine the region's economic trajectory for years to come. Verdict: the trade war that no one expected. What began as a strategic power move has evolved into one of the most impactful trade wars in modern history. The battle between Canada and the U.S. is no longer just about tariffs, it's about economic influence, political survival, and the shifting tides of global power. Will the U.S. hold its ground and escalate the trade war further, or will it bow to economic pressures and seek a resolution before irreversible damage is done? The stakes have never been higher, and the consequences will be felt for years to come. What do you think? Are we witnessing a new economic order in the making, or will cooler heads prevail? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. For the latest updates on the automotive world and more in-depth analysis, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.